Wednesday, April 8th, 9:04 a.m. What's up, everybody? Glad to see we're still on the markets today. Wasn't so sure. Start off with a great quote I'm sure we've all seen. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. And so we had some rather strict ultimatum on the table yesterday. I'm going to kind of walk you through clear market reaction as expected. Beneficial for us over at CF. That is what we have pulled up on the screen right now. As you can see, we were sitting up right around $500 with that announcement. Well, that was the lead-in. That was like the start. I think it was at the end of yesterday or the beginning of yesterday. But then we had pretty much right into the evening news, like right around, I'll say like 6:30, 6:45, right before Jeopardy, the Jeopardy hour. But during that evening broadcast, the newscaster, hey, we have breaking news. We've agreed to this ceasefire. So a very strict warning, which we'll get to that in the legal section, current events section. But for our market reaction, we have, again, like I said, beneficial for CF. So we're going to want to protect profit over here. Now the immediate, again, like I said before, I always have what is the reaction to the reaction? What is the reversal? And why I think that, again, it's not that I expected. It's just, again, acknowledging sentiment that's always there. In the same way you have a bias towards the stocks you're trading. That's kind of why you're trading them, and you'll feel like you've missed profit or, you've missed out on something that you're watching, not so that on something you're not watching. Over here, want to, again, avoid if somebody starts shooting ships as they go through the strait. That's obviously like the reversal or what would cause the reversal to this sentiment. And again, I'm trying to generalize it as to why, but it's just in the same way if you have a stock that's really momentum on the upside, we're always talking about it has the most potential to go to the downside. It's just when things are subjected to this momentum, they have the potential to reverse. And then I kind of is always in my mind, what is the event that causes that reversal? And so that would certainly be some sort of, the ceasefire is not holding up or not doing anything good. And so regardless, this is a huge drop, kind of what we expected, or certainly into the price range we expected. So we're going to open up here. Currently the ask is at 118 and the bid at 117. So even a dump, like I said, this 100 to 110 is our price target, if you want to say that. Not even a huge fan of price target. More like expected or potential movement potential. Again, it's the energy of the stock. But just, again, really the simple general thing that we're carving out here is just the stock moves. It moves some amount of price action, some dollar figure, and then we're saying, well, what's a reasonable retracement or reversal from that price action is really just the basic mechanic we're trying to execute. And so continued with the oil prices down again. Right, currently I just turned off CNBC. Right around $92 before the war at 67. Kind of at the peak tension, right around 120, 119, 120. And so the reversal trade is if something happens, but I want to kind of manage this one we're not going to cut this one short right away. We might add, we might not add, but I'm definitely just going to hold this one with the current position size. Certainly another $15 drop would not be unexpected for sustained ceasefire. Once the market opens, we'll see what happens. Definitely a dollar figure we want to protect, but if it were to bounce back up, 120, again, it's certainly above 130, but 122 to 126. Again, probably just looking to add. I mean, this is such a strong move. This thing is not trading strong. So I would view for the management of this trade, if we did have some sort of hiccup and the ceasefire doesn't hold, a ship gets fired on, some sort of appreciation in this stock, we would probably look to short a little more. We did add yesterday. I didn't do a update video. Like I said, I went hiking after my first video yesterday. But added, I want to say probably about 10 shares, 10, something like that. You can just see on the previous clips. But we're up $500. That's a good little chunk of change in a short amount of time. And overall, we're sitting up $16 a share of profit, so that's a good. The amount per share is just the way I do my mental accounting. So kind of expect a further dump here at the open, but we will see where this ends up. If it gets below 110, that's kind of where we're looking to cover. Or if it does go to around 100, definitely. But I don't want to cut this one short like American Eagle. And so if we cover here, again, freeze up mentally. SanDisk is the opposite. But just keeping in mind how much money we have exposed short, right around $4,000 or right around I'd say $4,800 between SanDisk and CF. So if we close CF, this is kind of the opposite one where we expect a depreciation over here, but kind of more independent from the direct Iran war conflict. And so this one, still time frame, we're going to let this play out. We have earnings coming up. I said that was like May something. That is not. That is sooner. That is April 30th after the bell. So still a couple weeks before the end of the month. 2.5. And so over here, probably not going to rush in to add something more. We'll go up to 5 shares for sure, but we would add, again, a break of 800 into like the 850 range is probably when I would add another one, and then into the 1,000 range. But we'll just kind of see the timing on this one. I'm still, but this one this will break hard. Win is kind of more up in the air. But we got the good break on CF, so a stop loss might go up here. Probably won't at all. We'll just see how it opens up. But really trying to not cut this short, because if it does pop up for whatever reason, the immediate stimulus back to the downside I see is imminent if something were to happen. Regardless, upward pressure across the market. S&P 676. So that again, that's 663 to 667 was just whatever price level in my head from the fall time of when it felt like things were kind of exhausted. So we're still sitting on 3+ years of gains. No inherent reason it has to have a retracement or a sideways year. I mean, we are, into the 4th month of the year. And so, I don't know, just calling out things that come to mind. And so, not looking to play anything particularly new on the upside. We'll check in on our Joby trade. We are in the profits over here. Our price average, ladies. Again, this is the one where we get our private private helicopter, for our dividend payment. We don't get a dividend payment, and we have 85 shares. But you never know. Could grow. But 881 price average over here. Probably we'll put a tight stop loss after the open if we stay above the 881. And then Gemmy, I think we popped up a little bit, the appreciation pressure across the market. And so this is 511. So again, this is kind of crypto little pop. We'll see here. Nothing life changing. Yeah, so that's overall for the trading construction considerations. No real talking points that I have written down. Do I see, how sustained do I see appreciation pressure is what I'll call it. Just the general terminology for upward movement of stock action, price action. Again, I still think just sideways or down. Added inflation pressure certainly for the rest of the year. So looking at you, Warsh. Let's warsh our interest rates right on up. All those poor people don't get interest return. Poor people, ha ha ha. Again, I don't have constitutional rights, which remains the primary stimulus for my money management construction. Is I can't live a life and everything sucks. And so, yeah, nothing else really to say. Again, more conversation about private credit, more conversation about the talking points going right back to tech investment. Another terminology thing that just sticks out to me is when you guys say CapEx. There's like CapEx spending. I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about the price to earnings expansion? CapEx, our market capitalization going up. We should have a bigger CapEx multiple. And so that's just a terminology. It's like when they say it, it feels like it's a something, and I'm not really sure what that something is. So we got to watch out for our capex spend this news cycle. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming it means investment or taking on money from the big market cap companies. I don't know. Again, CNBC team. Once again, we have people that are employed without competency, and that makes no sense. But nothing makes any sense because people think they support the United States Constitution by supporting Team Red or Team Blue. And it's like, here's the law. What about this shit? And it's, oh yeah, we're still not going to do that. So Brad's whole life is destroyed. That's awesome. Again, to the people watching these, I'm just begging for a little bit of money to be able to eat properly, sleep properly, and work. It's never going to happen. I keep documenting it, but it's destroyed my entire life. Nothing else on the stock trading for now, so we will check in later. Wednesday, April 8th, 12:26 p.m. What's up, everybody? Popping back in for some updates. I saw an 8 on SanDisk, so I went ahead and shorted another share. I've put up a stop loss and taken it down about 20 different times. And so just the thought being, just short another share. We dropped down, $40 is $40. But for the overall position sizing, like I said, 5 shares before any sort of big break to the downside would pretty much be my maximum position. And so really kind of the reason I put the stop loss up there is because preserving some, again, not profit, but if we have a base position of 3 shares and we're in the negative, but I'm still trading 1 share around, plus $20, plus $30 to minimize the overall depreciation as well as to move up my price average for a short position, trying to capitalize on the overall downward movement. And so that is why I put up a stop loss and took it down. As you can see, it is not up currently. But overall, I think I'm just going to try to, as of now, I'm decent. Like, I like the 4 shares over $700. Again, if this goes up to $1,000, we're going to look pretty silly. But if it doesn't, if this is kind of like more of the top range, this is looking good. Or I like the share size, 4 shares above 700. Again, right back into the same, do we try to dance around $20, $30 a share, and potentially miss out? Again, we still have not broken out of, frankly, we've kind of broken out of the range of the upside, from this 500 to 700 type of area. And so we have the earnings at the end of the month. The sentiment is clearly today the appreciation from this, again, stated resolution. Does it hold? Will it hold? We will see. And then after in 2 weeks of this, and so we kind of both of our legs still kind of open for overall management. CF has gotten a nice little pop up, as we can see from the morning clip, but we'll come back over here in a second. But point being is, I expect some downward pressure if there's any more flare up from the Iran conflict. 80% I doubt there'll be much. If there is, I think it'll be minor. Point being is for our market positioning, expecting, again, once the Iran war clears up, do I expect, again, when you watch hosts on CNBC say, an up year for the market, it's such a broad, like, what are you saying? And to me, they're more reflecting of, we have positive sentiment today. So now, again, the bald eagles are flying. The freedom is just spewing out everywhere. And so they're kind of just like echoing, again, this generic American freedom sentiment stuff, as opposed to like why the stock would go up, right? Why the indices would appreciate. Again, I'm overall bullish because, again, that population is still just bubbling up. We're in a speculative environment where everything overshoots to the upside. That is why most, if not all trades we take, well, not all, but most trades we take or looking to take are short positions. And so, again, I'm whipsawing with the same headlines and stuff everybody else is. But that is where we're at right now today. Did add another share this morning. Said I was going to hold off to like 810 to 850. Do we get up there? Again, maybe not. But for SanDisk specifically, I expect it to be up in this range. Again, to me, this is like the upper range for the Iran stimulus. Yesterday we're talking about, okay, we have this conflict. It's been going on for 5 weeks. Now we have this reverse sentiment. Then anytime the sentiment reverses, then immediately the thought is, okay, what about a re-reversal, right? Meaning we have this resolution announced, we start, stocks in general start going back up. Anything exposed to the energy starts going down. Well, then the thought, again, just the thought in my head is like, okay, what if these people start shooting, Iranians start shooting at ships or whatever? Again, it's just, again, acknowledgement of the sentiment that is present to me, that is most relevant to managing trades. And so the level I did have, the one share stop was at the 790. So now we've gone past that. So the sentiment is always, again, jumping. Okay, like, why didn't I say it? Well, it went up. Well, what if it would have went down? And so, again, just reemphasizing, focusing on trading the overall moves as opposed to these intraday things. Again, it makes sense to sell if you think it's going to go down, and it always makes sense to buy if you think it's going to go up. Trying to calibrate that change is really where the money's made, I guess. I don't know. Again, just thinking out loud. Again, it's a trade vlog overall. But that is where we're at with SanDisk. Point being, all things considered, I expect the short-term stimulus to be a little to the appreciative side. We do have earnings coming up, as we referenced earlier, and that is on April 30th after the market. And so we kind of, again, have this sector sector indication of Micron, right? That Micron had their earnings, let's see how many days ago at this point. A good amount, but again, we have this sell-off immediately after earnings. And so now Micron, again, the same type of sector trade, there has been some articulated differentiation between what type of memory they're producing. But they're kind of like smack dab in the middle of their trading range after breaking to the lower end. We are in SanDisk short to avoid any dividend obligation as well as just the overall price per share. There's more room to drop from 800 than from 400. But regardless, overall dollar figures, again, I keep like the things of like short-term relevance in my mind. And we had the 1400 win from American Eagle. We're sitting up on CF, which I don't really consider this profit until we realize it. But sitting up about 400 and then sitting down on SanDisk from the current position, about 350, then total about 500. And so, just again, mental accounting of recent decision makings, are my up or down, up about $1,000. And so, and that type of consideration is, how much money do I have exposed to the short side? How much money do I want to risk in general? So yeah, just kind of, again, giving you anything that's going through my head, because there's not a lot to talk about really. But I stopped out at Joby, just put it again, anything on immediate profit here. So we were at 881, so that stopped out probably about 890. But $40 total. That's on the day, but that was not in profit. So $32, not $40 total for Joby. All Joby activities. And then CF. And so this was fun. I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but I'll move it over here a little bit. Boop. So you can see we get CF and we get a little thing. Look, we get a specific announcement for Joe Terranova selling CF. And so we have been short CF. And he had been long, so Joe Terranova was on his way to prison for working for all of those criminals at CNBC. That is not a joke in any way. I want these people in jail. If you're a grown-ass man and think you deserve to have a career and a family more than me, what have you contributed to this world? And here's the laws. Again, here's the law. Did you break that? Yeah, go fuck yourself. But privileged Joe, he gets to live a life, and so good trade overall from his perspective. I mean, I think he bought in like the 95 to the 100 region, and then he said he sold half yesterday before the announcement, intraday, and then half after the announcement. So we'll say, again, after the announcement, are we looking at 120 or 125? I don't know. Obviously, I don't know, so I'll just say he made, we'll say the average sell was 129 to 131. So good trade, 30% for sure getting out. We played the opposite side, and just to kind of consider, again, like I said, I just see it way more precarious as to go long these things, because then you wake up and you don't sell yesterday, and then you miss this drop. Whereas we have the short position, And so when it fluctuates above our price average, like I said, I did add yesterday a little bit. But it just, he makes, we'll call it $30 a share. I'm looking to make, again, pretty much the same type of move, right, from the 130 back to the 100. And I just see, again, as the predictability of the resolution more definitive than how the prolonged upside. And so overall, from his perspective, certainly a good trade. Hopefully we close it out into a good profit if it does appreciate from here. Because like we were saying earlier, if we have some Iranians firing from the shorelines or just more hostility through this Strait of Hormuz, this could flare up a little bit, but we would just short more. Again, overall dollar figure, want to preserve it, but we're kind of out of that range. That was a morning decision. And like we said, I don't want to cut this one too short because still the conviction back to $100 a share is pretty high for me. And so regardless, that is what we're doing at CF. Good trade for Joe before he goes to jail. It's just a good example of why, again, I like just this resolution shorter. You miss this. He doesn't sell yesterday. You miss this. But again, I'm just talking you through my thoughts through my management. So we'll continue on here. But I just thought it was more impressive that Joe T gets a specified icon on Thinkorswim. That big movement in the markets. But regardless, moving along, that was all for my portfolio repositioning. Again, we've reappreciated or recuperated a lot on these index funds, which just gives me some boat of confidence since they're relatively new that they are going to track. I don't see why they wouldn't, but track specifically the indices they're tied to. Whereas in the weekly payouts, to me, a lot of them, at least the ones we followed, ULTY and WPay. I think WPay is like halted or something, actually. Yeah, this one seems to have gotten pulled off the market, but I'm glad I'm out of these for sure. And so these monthly indices incomes on the index funds, SPYI, they call them NEOs. I don't know if that means NEO like new or if that's an acronym. Like any discipline or profession, the acronyms in business and in law enforcement just go absolutely bonkers. But regardless, good boat of confidence that this is going to track the underlying indice, feeling pretty good about holding these income funds for these monthly payouts. And so overall, that gives us about $250 a month. And then the Treasury bonds, SGov, giving us about the dividend hit yesterday. That was right around $1,700. And so, again, I live in poverty because I do not have constitutional rights. But it's enough. Again, I can't emphasize enough to the people watching these videos. You can literally see my trading logs get zero. To the law enforcement people, I am sitting here saying, is the federal government the IRS going to try to extort me? I just want to be able to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. I am begging, and I am begging publicly. One day in history, people are not going to look back kindly at this time. And it's just so fucking insane to know that people are behind closed doors saying, oh, he's doing all right. He can wait a little longer. He can wait a little longer, and you've wasted my entire life. It's disgusting. It's atrocious, and there's no morality. I mean, I wish there was maturity so I could look Joe T in the eyes and say, bitch, motherfucker, why do you deserve a career and a family and I don't? And then he actually has to respond to my face. But, of course, he can't. And so, because he's a coward and he's a loser, just like every other fucking person I've ever met. Yeah, so continuing on, again, it destroys all of my property, all of this legal citation. It just bogs down all of my work. But, like I said, my life doesn't matter. Why would my research matter? And so, only other talking point I've written down for our lunch update is Meta launches a new AI model. So that got some intraday excitement. Again, these appreciation buzz things, I don't really know how to play them if you do play them. I just see them, the news hits. I don't really I used to have like momentum indicate. I'm not sitting here all day looking at scanners waiting for something to pop. But this is one of those moves where something starts moving pretty aggressively. You see the news. I saw this it came across the CNBC news desk, their talking points, and so I saw this right around 6:10. And so these momentum plays aren't bad. Intraday, well-established company, has some sort of big fundamental announcement, and you just buy it long and put a trailing stop loss and capitalize on any intraday movement you can. Like I said, this is something I would take, But with my overall portfolio construction, I'm only taking stuff that is high conviction. If I had genuine cash flow, if I could actually trade meaningfully, it would just be like a risk tolerance. It would just be here, this amount of capital allocated. Here's my core holdings. Here's the amount of money I'm trading around. And then just, I'm willing to risk $10 a trade, $100 a trade, $1,000 a trade, whatever the dollar figure is. But without that type of risk tolerance, there's no point to take a bunch of trades outside of high conviction. Because that's the only trades I'm taking at all right now. And so that is where we're at today at April 8th at 12:41 p.m. and we will check in later. Wednesday, April 8th, 5:33 p.m. What's up, everybody? No real talking points, not much insight. As we can see, the ceasefire had a little, hey, are we still really going to be? We had some pushback from the Iran military, the IRGC, about the Israeli strikes in Lebanon. So we had this reclosing, opening, more stuff with the Hormuz Strait. Added a couple shares short here to CF if this creeps up anymore. We did have a good cover. Like I said, the 110, the 100 to 110 was our price range. So we were right there. Game time decision, didn't close it, but highly confident on, again, this next 2 weeks of something providing more direct resolution, even if it does appreciate a little bit. So kind of an interesting looking candle on this daily, but we'll add more here if we get back up. Still in the profit a good amount, but certainly won't close this above like the 120s. And so SanDisk, no real movement over here. Closed below 800. Like I said, we did add one share at, I think it was 801. And so that is what I have. No real insight. Not going to carry on this episode any longer. To the people torturing me, please stop doing it. I am very literally begging.